I want to discuss the cost of debt. Now, the cost of debt is relatively easy to compute or to obtain, unlike the cost of equity. So, one way you can find the cost of debt is simply to find the yield on bonds with a similar rating. And again, we're going to need these yields to price a bond, or if we're going to do some cost of capital calculation. The other approach is to calculate the yield to maturity for the debt. And this is an easy calculation because bonds have finite maturities and fixed payments. So a bond might mature in 15 years and it might have a 5% coupon rate, so it's paying $50 a year in interest per $1,000 par value. So in terms of just looking up the rate on the debt, here I've just gone to the internet and I just searched out yields based on bond ratings, and this is something from the Wall Street Journal. And you can see that they have some information here on different types of securities like U.S. government, and they have a general U.S. corporate one, but they also have it by rating. AA rated would be 5.04, that's the latest. Triple B or BAA, depending on which rating agency you're using. They use sort of different notation, 5.50%. Okay, down here to triple C rated is 11.241%. Okay, triple C is a quite low rated bond and perhaps even in default, so pays a very high or has a very high yield. So this is an easy way to do it. The other approach is to compute the yield to maturity. So we can do this using a financial calculator or Excel. And so, for example, you have a 12-year bond that has a coupon rate of 6% and it's selling for $982.75. Let's assume the bond makes semi-annual interest payments, and let's find the yield to maturity. So you really have to use a financial calculator or a spreadsheet to do this. Otherwise, you have to solve it by trial and error. There's no sort of algebraic calculation here. In this case, n equals 24, because if the interest is paid semi-annually, you have twice as many periods, or you have 2 6-month periods in every year. The payment of $30, a coupon of rate of 6%, means you get $60 a year in interest, or $30 every 6 months. The present value is the price you paid for the bond, which is negative $982.75, and the future value is $1,000. So you put that into your calculator and you hit compute I/Y and you get 3.10. Now keep in mind that's a semi-annual rate, and you're going to need to double it in order to get the yield to maturity. And you can see that this makes sense. If the coupon rate is 6% and the price of the bond has gone down, then the yield to maturity should exceed the coupon rate. So that's a good sort of common sense check when you're doing calculations. If we want to do this in Excel, we put in the notation slightly different. Instead of N, it's NPER for the number of periods. Again, 24. PMT is the same, 30. PV is minus 982.75. And the future value is 1,000. You would put it into Excel starting with an equal sign so it knows you're doing an equation, and it will tell you what to put in and in what order. So the first thing it asks you for is the number of periods, it asks you for the payment, it asks you for the present value and the future value, and it asks some other things as well. For example, such as type, which would ask when is the payment actually made, beginning or end of period. Normally you can leave that blank. We assume that it's an ordinary annuity and the payment is made at the end of the period. Again, you'll get the same answer you got before, 3.1, and you're going to need to double it in order to get the yield to maturity. The final step you might want to consider is finding the after-tax cost of debt. And you would do that by multiplying by 1 minus the tax rate. Taking the yield to maturity and multiplying by 1 minus the tax rate. Remember that interest payments are tax deductible, so Uncle Sam is picking up a portion of the interest that you're paying. So if the tax rate is 25%, Uncle Sam's picking up 25 cents out of every dollar you pay in interest. So take the 6.2%, multiply it by 1 minus 0.25, and we get 4.65%, and that would be the after-tax cost of debt. So I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching.